And the sun rises on a new dawn and a new day.
I didn't get much rest, but at least I have something to show for it. I'd best see if everyone has come down for breakfast.
You've only got something to show for it because we discovered a secret passage in the study when we went to collect materials to get people's fingerprints. And then we discovered a safe and cracked the safe using Marston's secret encrypted documents, and Mary Brent's diary went down below, found a single submersible submarine that's out of commission, unfortunately, got bits and pieces, maybe to build a boat and get off the island, and if I didn't do all of that, all we would be doing, instead of collecting fingerprint references, is peeping into other people's room going, oh, they're snoring. Where would you be without me, Narracott? Nowhere. He's a dent in the table.
If I take anything he says with a grain of salt, then they will not be sending a boat until at least Monday, even if the storm clears.
Wise to remember, Narracott's the odd man out here.
Yes.
Blore, your
Blore?
lips aren't moving.
At least nothing else has occurred.
I hope you are correct, Miss Clayford.
They're all wearing the same
However,
things.
I feel compelled to draw your attention to this table's centerpiece.
Now 2 are broken. How odd.
Ah, Mr. Narracott, good morning. Since Mr. Marsden won't be joining us,
The swaggering in.
Place for breakfast, although
King
breakfast
swag.
itself seems to be a trifle behind schedule.
I'm afraid there is no breakfast at present. Mrs.
Why?
Rogers has not been able to carry on this morning.
What's the matter with the woman? I was promised fresh apple juice this morning.
I must tell you a sad piece of news.
Which is?
Mrs. Rogers died in her sleep.
Oh god. Don't be such a sad clown. Alright, with Mrs. Rogers dead, the first person I'm going to talk to is the doctor. Well, he's the one that's clearly examined him. Cause of death, doctor?
What was the cause of death?
Impossible to say offhand.
There
Oh.
must be an autopsy.
I certainly couldn't give a certificate without one.
Speaking of autopsy, have you given Marston an autopsy yet? You won't give Marston an autopsy because, as I remember correctly, you think it was suicide, but you won't jump to conclusions and say it's murder, but you'll jump to conclusions to say that it was suicide for Marston. So, you've got 2 autopsies you need to do. Unless you don't intend to issue a certificate for Marston.
When did you find out?
Rogers roused me at first light. He'd gotten up to light the stove and see to the power generator before waking her. When she didn't respond, he got me.
So when?
Can you tell when she died?
Without an autopsy, not for certain, but it must have been some hours ago. The body was quite cold.
Well, you were sleeping tight as an owl, Dr. Armstrong. I doubt you heard anything.
Did you hear anything in the night?
No, although it appears I should have.
Why?
That is all for now, Dr. Armstrong.
Ugh, I better go and check on Rogers, see how he's doing. Rogers?
Rogers. So sorry to hear about your wife. She seemed a good sort.
She was.
Thank you, sir. Still, one mustn't dwell on the past.
Don't live in
There is much
denial.
to be done.
Must be said, Narracott, it must be said.
Sorry to ask you this. Any thoughts on your wife's death?
She was a good wife. A bit high-strung, but we made a good team.
You always seem to do.
I often didn't give her credit for that, I'm afraid. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I wasn't kinder to her these past few years. I'm sorry I didn't listen to her that night.
What night? Well, you should have heard me knocking on your door.
Did you hear anything in the night?
I may have heard something at our bedroom door.
That was me.
I'm not sure. I slept in the bath so as not to disturb Ethel. If I'd been in the room, I might have noticed.
There's nothing you could have done,
I
man.
might have been able to get the doctor in time.
Nonsense, man.
Exactly.
There's nothing you could have done. Don't reproach yourself.
Have you noticed anything out the ordinary?
Have you noticed anything out of the ordinary since
Apart from
you arrived
gameplay
here,
and
Rogers?
graphics.
Just this, sir. This house is more like a museum than a residence. I've dusted every square inch, and I found articles left behind by many previous owners, including the Robsons, that actress, and even the Admiralty.
Wow.
The only owners who seem to have left no mark at all are Mr. and Mrs. Owen.
I appreciate your candor, Mr. Rogers.
It would imply that if there's no evidence of Mr. and Mrs. Owen, they don't exist at all. Okay, Judge?
Any theories about Mrs. Rogers' death, Judge?
I'm afraid it confirms my opinion.
You had
that
an
there's something
opinion?
very wrong on this island.
Oh yeah.
It occurs to me that if these 2 deaths were not suicides
Psychopath,
or
I remember now.
accidents, that Mr. Owen may very well be responsible. If so, he is almost certainly on this island somewhere.
I agree. I think we should find a way off this island immediately.
Well, I've got this inflatable dinghy. I just need to find a pump to pump it up.
Did you hear anything in the night?
I confess I slept fitfully. Marsden's death, the storm, but I heard nothing. Possibly also due to the storm.
Understandable, Judge. Quite understandable.
Mr. Narracott, can your boat be repaired?
No.
I doubt very seriously it can be repaired. Mr. Blore did a good job.
Steady on. I didn't know then how the land lay, did I?
So you say.
If you find a means of leaving the island or of signaling the
Well,
mainland,
I found
I'm
this
sure
radio.
we will all be in your debt.
And I'm sure all of us would help in any way we could.
Yes.
We're never going to leave the island.
Oh god, look
None of
at
us
that
are ever
finger.
going to leave.
Big fat sausage finger. Anyway, as I was saying, found this shortwave radio, put it together with a lamp, a microphone, some battery bulbs or whatever you call them. But unfortunately, Mr. Owen was off the island talking with some fishermen, and I just don't have the balls to talk through the microphone again, or even retune it. So I'm afraid no one will know for the time being we're on this island when we desperately need help. Don't worry, I've got a floatable dinghy. I just need to find a bike pump. I'll get off this island even if it almost kills me.
What were you hinting at concerning Marston's politics?
Only that he'd become mixed up with some foreigners. I think that's all I'd better say at present.
Good day to you, Judge.
Why? He's dead. Nobody's really gonna care because he's dead, and I already know he's been working for the Germans. I've decoded his message. He was after some secret plans or documents or even the single submersible sub itself.
8 little sailor boys. The plot thickens.
About time. Alright, Lombard, I'll just walk here and then talk to you.
Any theories about Mrs. Rogers' death?
We know that she consumed something last night. Dr. Armstrong told us so.
Aye, Mr. Lombard?
You gave her a sedative.
A small dose of Trianol, nothing more.
Doctors have made mistakes before.
Yeah.
You're suggesting I accidentally gave Mrs. Rogers an overdose?
Accidentally or otherwise. One death may have been an accident or suicide, but 2 in the space of a few hours?
Very suspicious.
Simply outrageous. Man of my
Calm
standard.
down, Doctor.
Any more questions, Mr. Narracott?
Quite a few.
Did you hear anything in the night?
I'm a very light sleeper. In future, I hope everyone will bear that in mind. Yes, several times I heard something.
You
Probably
didn't
me.
investigate.
Knocking around.
With a judge, a detective, and an amateur sleuth in the house, you hardly need my poor skills in that line. I prefer to keep...
And what did you see, old man?
Hunter in his blind.
A good analogy, Judge.
You said you recognized Owen's voice.
Yes, tell me.
Had time to think it over, and I'm sure I did. But I see no reason to share that information with you.
Why
That'll be all,
not?
Mr. Lombard.
Are you blackmailing them? Do you want money? Good grief. Trying to barter your life?
Any theories about Mrs. Rogers' death?
Conscience.
What do you
Wow.
mean by that?
Another one that
She
committed
was
suicide.
accused, together with her husband, of having deliberately murdered her former employer, an old lady. You all saw her last night. She broke down completely. The shock of her wickedness brought home to her was too much to bear. She literally died of fear.
Aye.
If there was cardiac weakness.
And was
Call
there?
it, if you prefer, an act of God.
I'd
I won't
rather
take
not.
up any more of your time, Miss Brent.
Yes, Narracott. We know better not to talk to this woman about a load of old gibberish. Now, Mrs. Rogers. General, not your wife.
Any theories about Mrs. Rogers' death?
I'm sure Mrs. Rogers wasn't to blame. A good, loyal woman.
Yes, I don't think she committed suicide either.
Did you hear anything in the night?
I thought... I thought I heard a voice calling my name.
Might have been me, though.
My wife.
I did check up
She
on you.
died several years ago.
What did you snoring?
I expect it was a dream.
Oh, yeah, you thought you recognised Lombard.
General, you said you thought you recognized Lombard.
Did I?
Yes.
I expect I did. But I fail to see what business it might be of yours.
I am indebted to you for your help.
Because
General
he could
Mackenzie.
be not Lombard. Maybe he's somebody pretending to be Lombard. Maybe Lombard's dead and he is actually, you know, the killer. You silly old fool. Oh. No, I was just seeing whether these chairs would be the perfect fit and height for the character models, because as you know, in the living room them chairs were massive, big massive pillows for tiny little bodies, but I would see these chairs, apart from being very uncomfortable by the looks of them, I think they could be just right, although not much leg room's given.
You're a detective, Mr. Bloor.
Ooh,
Any
sarcasm
theories?
there.
I appreciate you recognizing the fact there's a professional present. I'd like to know what
Ooh,
she had to eat or
certain
drink
movement.
last night before she collapsed.
Just a try now.
Rogers assures me she had nothing whatsoever.
Of course he would say that. But see here. They've done a murder and gotten away with it. Now she's all hysterical, likely to give the show away. He's a danger to her husband, that's what she is.
Oh, I should hardly think a man would do that to his wife.
Stranger things happen, Mackenzie. So, let me get this straight, Blow. You don't think Marston committed suicide because he wasn't really that type at all, but you think that Record might have brought on some form of hysteria and killed him, although there's... the opinion is not widely accepted. People are thinking about it, but you think that Mrs. Rogers was done by Mr. Rogers because they've gotten away with a murder, she's hysterical, doing the wife. Even though earlier you thought something was very queer going on, and that Record was very disturbing. I would have been linking the two together if I was you. But if you want to treat it as two separate incidents for now, we might argue.
You said you knew something about the history of this island.
Most of the old stuff can be found in the library. Its more recent history is just as interesting, though. But I'm
Yes.
not inclined to divulge that just yet.
Thanks, Bloor.